What's up, guys? This is Adam from Slurv, Ship My Money on DraftKings, and I'll be breaking down today's pitching slate for you for May 26th. It's a small 5-game slate, so not a ton to talk about. Everything seems pretty straightforward. But as usual, I'll start with the cash plays on DraftKings and FanDuel, and then move into my GPP plays, as well as the pitchers that I want to target hitters against. Starting with cash on DraftKings, there's really, for cash and GPP today, there's really just 3 pitchers I'm interested in. But for cash, my preferences on DraftKings are Matt Whistler at 9,100 as a minus 125 favorite against the Brewers, and Joe Ross at 8,100 as a minus 138 favorite against the Cardinals. Ross, you do have to pay attention to the weather because there could be some storms in DC, but if that game is just delayed at the start, then he's definitely in play. But for Whistler, he's priced up on DraftKings, and the price isn't ideal, but there's not that many options tonight. And he's matched up with the Brewers team, who strikes out a lot against right-handed pitching. And Whistler's similar to Foltynewicz last night in that he throws a lot of first pitch strikes at 61% for the season. And the Brewers are a team that don't swing a lot. So if you can get ahead in the count, then you have a good chance of getting a lot of strikeouts, because when they do swing, they swing and miss. But if you're behind in the count and you're throwing them 2-0 fastballs, then they don't swing and miss. They actually have some power. But as long as you're ahead in the count, then you have a good chance of striking out a lot of them. And Whistler is pretty good at getting ahead in the count. So I like him in this matchup. And then Joe Ross, the Cardinals are a dangerous team, but they're going to be without Matt Carpenter today, who's on paternity leave. So that makes the lineup a lot less scary, especially for someone like Ross, who has really extreme splits against, between right-handed and left-handed batters. Against righties, dating back to last year, he's got a 225 WOBA, 24.8% K percentage. His ground ball to fly ball ratio is 2, which is really, really good. He's got a 2.88 xFIP. All those numbers are just great against right-handed batters. And, he's continued this year, striking out a lot of right-handed batters. And the Cardinals lineup, isn't out yet, but it's projected to only have 2 lefties in it. And one of those lefties is Colton Wong, who isn't particularly good. Not having Matt Carpenter just makes a big difference to me in that lineup. So I really like Joe Ross today, and think he's, a pretty safe play. For cash on FanDuel, I'm going to go with Matt Whistler. He's facing the weakest hitting team out of the guys that I like, and he's only 6,500 on FanDuel, so you can just get all the bats you want and pair them with Whistler, who is in a good spot to get a good amount of points for you. So that's where I would go in cash. Looking at GPPs, my favorite GPP pitcher on both sites is Lance McCullers of Houston going against the Orioles. McCullers last season had a strikeout rate of about 24% with a swinging strike rate of 9%. So far this season, he's only pitched 10 innings since coming back off the DL, but so far he's got a strikeout percentage of about 23.5% with a swinging strike rate of 11%. So his swinging strikes are actually up this season, and he should continue with the strikeouts. His last start, he threw 92 or 93 pitches, so he's back over that 90 pitch mark. He should be allowed to get pretty deep into this game, and he's facing an Orioles team that hits right-handed pitching well, but they also strike out over 22% of the time, and they're a very streaky team. When they're hot, they can hit anybody, and when they're cold, they can't hit anybody. And their last 2 games, they've struck out over 30 times combined. 2 days ago, in the game Fister started that went extra innings, they struck out 19 times, and then yesterday, McHugh had, I think it was 10 or 11 strikeouts by himself. And McHugh is nowhere near the strikeout pitcher that McCullers is. So I really like McCullers. And the other reason I really like him in GPPs especially is I think Kevin Gausman is going to be pretty chalky today. I've seen him ranked pretty highly by other people. And if people are going to take Gausman, then they're less likely to take McCullers, especially against a dangerous team like the Orioles. So I just love him in GPPs at 8,600 on DraftKings, 8,000 on FanDuel. He's also a small favorite, minus 115. So, he's just someone I really, really like. He also gets a lot of ground balls, so that kind of negates the park factor as well. So I really like him as my number 1 GPP option. And then, it's Whistler and Ross for the same reasons I already said that I liked him in cash. I liked him in GPPs today because I think they both have strikeout upside, and they're both relatively safe options on a small slate where it's tough to find many. So I really like them. Touching a little bit more on Gausman, it's not so much that I dislike Gausman as I don't like this isn't the matchup that I really like to target him. Like, I think he's a good pitcher, and I think he's going to get better. And as an Orioles fan, I really, really hope he gets better. But I like him more against left-handed heavy lineups. And the Astros are a very right-handed heavy lineup. He's developed, like a curveball slider this year that is better than previous years, but it's still not good. It's just kind of like a show-me pitch to right-handed batters. His go-to is his fastball and his split changeup, which works better against lefties, and is why he's had reverse splits throughout his career. And the Astros, most of their really good hitters are right-handed, so this is kind of like the Tigers matchup where it's a team that strikes out a lot against righties, but he doesn't have the stuff to strike out a ton of righties. He's got good stuff, but generally you can't rely on his breaking ball to be that good. And so it scares me, him facing a power hitting right-handed heavy lineup. And given that I think he's going to be really popular, I'd rather take the other side of the matchup and, hope that he kind of struggles. So that's what I'm thinking for pitchers. As far as where I want to go for hitters, the Red Sox are the obvious choice. Like, they're just going to be super, super chalky today. They've just hit everybody well, and I don't know that I can fade them completely today. They're projected for 5.4 runs, which is much higher than anyone else playing. But there are some things going in favor of fading them. For one, Mookie Betts isn't in the lineup. So that's, one of their better hitters that isn't going to be there. And they're also facing Jonathan Gray, who, he's young, but he's a good pitcher outside of Coors Field. So he's not someone, like Gray's not someone that I really want to target in GPPs or anything, just because I don't think you need to today, because all the pitching options I like are cheap enough. But, he's a good pitcher. He strikes out a lot of guys. He's, fastball slider guy, and he's just, he's just like is a guy that I don't like stacking against because he's just good. And that's not to say the Red Sox won't have a great game, especially because the Rockies' bullpen sucks. But on a 5-game slate where the Red Sox are projected for way more runs than anybody, their ownership's just going to be massive. Like, I doubt there's really any way to even differentiate stacking within that lineup. They've got, like, Jackie Bradley leading off, so he's not a differentiation option today. It's just going to be really tough to make a Red Sox lineup that really separates you from the field, I think. And the fact that John Gray's pitching makes me it makes me want to find another spot. I don't know if I'll be able to, but it makes me want to look really hard. My thoughts on that other spot so far are, if the Kansas City game gets in, Kansas City's projected for 4.8 runs going up against Miguel Gonzalez. That's a spot where Kansas City's always under-owned, and you just have to make sure you stack all of Kansas City. You have to have a full stack. You can't just pick and choose a couple White Sox hitters or Royals hitters, because they're playing in Kauffman where it's tough to hit home runs. They don't hit a lot of home runs as it is. But if you full stack them, you get some stolen bases, you get a bunch of hits, RBI doubles, stuff like that, and they're going to be, I would think, much less owned than Boston, even though they're the second highest projected team on the slate. And then also I like the Astros, stack today. Because, like I said, I'm assuming Gausman's going to be really popular. So you can kind of leverage that by stacking the Astros, who have as much upside on any given slate as anyone. They hit for a lot of powers. They can run. And so if, they have a big game against Gausman, then, you are gaining on the people that played Gausman as well. Not to mention the Orioles bullpen, has just kind of been overworked lately. They had the extra inning game 2 nights ago. Wilson went 5 or 6 innings last night. They are just they've been out there a lot, so they're still talented pitchers in the bullpen, but it's not an ideal spot for the Orioles bullpen it's not as ideal a spot as it could be. So I do like the Astros as a high upside, probably pretty low owned stack tonight. So that's where I'm looking right now. As always, stop into the Slurve chat throughout the day, and I'll be in there as I get more in-depth research done and have better ideas of how I'm going to construct my lineups. So stop in and chat with us, and good luck tonight, guys.